Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, no matter who wins the Seattle mayoral race, we all lose. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
A far-left radical activist group is literally calling for an insurrection in Washington, D.C. next weekend. Apparently, they didn't want to do it this weekend because it might mess up their Halloween plans. A coalition of far-left activist groups is planning a literal insurrection in Washington, D.C. on November 5th, calling for millions of Americans to surround federal buildings and refuse to disperse until President Donald Trump is removed from power. Isn't that an insurrection? I'm just checking. Isn't that an insurrection? It's not deadly yet, but isn't that an insurrection? The primary organizer, Refuse Fascism, is openly urging supporters to besiege the White House, the U.S. Capitol, and the Supreme Court in what critics are describing as an attempted insurrection. Quote, surround the White House, surround the Capitol, surround the illegitimate fascist-packed Supreme Court, the group wrote on its website, declaring that waiting for future and rigged elections is no longer acceptable. November 5th marks the anniversary of Trump's election victory. The organization claims that the United States is already under fascist rule and insists that only unrelenting pressure can grind the machinery of the fascist regime to a halt. Participants are encouraged to repeatedly return to D.C., refuse compliance with authorities, shut down institutions, and continue until Trump is forcibly removed from office. Throughout its lengthy statement, Refuse Fascism accuses the Trump administration of committing genocide, abolishing democratic rights, erasing minority groups, enslaving women. Enslaving women? No, that's what Joe Biden did when he abandoned Afghanistan to the Taliban. Destroying truth and carrying out boundless terror. It asserts that elections are insufficient and that any belief in traditional political processes is an illusion. Quote, the Trump fascist regime is illegitimate. History is full of examples where people who had right on their side fought against tremendous odds and were victorious. Now, we know this is just the sequel to the No Kings, right? Or I should say the third in the trilogy, because we had the June No Kings, then we had the No Kings just earlier this month, and now we're going to have this. We know that these are all coordinated by far-left activist groups like left-wing mega-donor George Soros' Open Society Foundations, who provided Indivisible, which is one of the groups coordinating this, with a $3 million grant in 2023 to support the grantee's social welfare activities. According to public grant records, critics argue that the organization's role in managing protest data, logistics, and communications amounts to centralized national coordination, which is exactly what it is. Why do they always have the same props? Why do they always have the same signs? Why do they always have the same gear? Why do they always have the same stuff from coast to coast? This is the nonsense the left keeps doing, and I don't see them winning hearts and minds. I don't see new people showing up. I see the same nonsense every single time. There's a new poll out from Pew Research. Pew Research, usually pretty bipartisan. Pew Research finds 85% of Americans believe politically motivated violence is increasing, with near identical shares of Republicans, 86%, and Democrats, 85%, expressing concern. Only 12% say levels of violence have stayed the same. Just 3% say it is decreasing. You know who the 3% is? Antifa. Now they're in the costumes. They're not beating people up because they're worried about serving big boy time in federal penitentiaries. The survey was conducted in the wake of the murder of Charlie Kirk and follows recent attacks on political officials. Pew researcher Joseph Copeland and Jocelyn Kiley said across the country and across the political spectrum, Americans see politically motivated violence on the rise. Just over half of U.S. adults view both left-wing extremism and right-wing extremism as major problems. What's fascinating to me is every side thinks it's there, but they think it's the other one doing it. That's fascinating to me. The partisan split is stark. 77% of Republicans call left-wing extremism a major problem, compared with 27% who say the same of right-wing extremism. So the left is admitting the right-wing extremists they paint as right-wing extremists aren't really violent, aren't really a problem. 76% of Democrats say right-wing extremism is a major problem, while 32% point to the left. Roughly half in each party view politically unaffiliated extremists as a significant threat. So basically, everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else. Well, we can just pull up the data on who's actually causing this, no matter what anybody says. But it's clear that it's rising. It's clear that everybody thinks it's rising. And now you have a whole bunch of psychopaths who are literally calling for an insurrection in Washington, D.C. to overthrow the president of the United States. Who are the ones calling for this? Left-wing activist groups. When you talk about contrasting this with what's going on the right, our problems don't seem so big on the right. Last night, there was this beautiful event for Turning Point USA at Ole Miss. And you had Erica Kirk on stage with J.D. Vance. And actually, we'll get to J.D. Vance in a minute. But what was amazing is, Mike, check me on this. I can't remember a vice president or a president ever standing there just randomly taking question after question after question from random people you don't know who they are. Journalists, fine. But random people who could say literally anything? J.D. Vance did a great job. We'll come back to him in a second. Our problems on the right are more of who's trying to splinter MAGA, who's trying to be the leader of MAGA. Are we going to embrace neo-Nazis? Those are the issues we're having on the right. What was amazing to me was that as much as we're having those issues, and they seem pretty big because of everything we're seeing on social media, it's not like the left. The left, if you don't do exactly what the far left activists say, boom, that's it. You're dead to them. You are a target to them. You know these lunatics who are going to D.C., they don't care about the Democrat Party. They just want anarchy. They just want chaos. They're using the Democrat Party like the Democrat Socialists of America. It's the same people doing this who are going to Washington, D.C. On our side, we argue about, well, how big should our tent be? Do we include the fringe? Do we not include the fringe? You know, we're spending a lot of time this week discussing Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and their crazy comments. But nobody's mad at Tucker Carlson for criticizing Israel. They're mad at him for agreeing with guests who deny the Holocaust or neo-Nazis or claim there is a Jewish cabal controlling everything. Now, meanwhile, people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson have made some really outrageous claims, especially about Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk. Erica Kirk is a class act. She really is. I think she was addressing this during her remarks last night. But before we get to that, here's the inspirational stuff she said last night, which I thought was just beautiful. She came out on stage wearing the Freedom T-shirt that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he was assassinated, and here's what she said.
You guys have no idea how helpful it is to have all of you in my life, because you help me feel even more deeply connected to my husband. And I thank you for that. I thank all of you for that. And I say that also because you guys are the heartbeat of Turning Point USA. You're the heartbeat of this organization, and every time we were at an event, especially one that Charlie was speaking at, he would always ask beforehand, he would always ask Mikey or the team, he'd say, who in the audience is a Turning Point USA chapter leader or chapter member? And whenever there was a student there, he would stop everything before the event and he would sit down with them. He would ask you what your name is, what you're studying, what is the issues that are going on campus. He would take the time to make sure that you guys knew he was investing into you, into your chapter, into your school, because that was a pulse point for him.
Okay, so that's how we do things on the right. We go talk on college campuses. We go have discussions on college campuses. We let people who disagree with us talk on college campuses. In fact, she said this, which this really resonated with me. I love this message she gave.
Earn your voice. Charlie loved the word earn. Earn your voice. This is about your legacy. Each one of you in this room, everyone watching, when you earn your voice and you stand up for what is right, that is a part of your legacy, your family's legacy, just as much as it is part of Charlie's legacy. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. Because if there's one thing I've learned, especially being with Charlie for the past 7 years, it's that the hope we're looking for is not found in Washington. It's not found in media. It's right here. All of you. This is the hope. And he saw that.
By the way, I feel the exact same way when I go to those conferences. I say these kids who gave up their vacations to be here at a political conference, who gave up their nights, those kids could be partying on campus. I heard something funny last night, by the way. Apparently, the left had their own rally at Ole Miss last night. They filled a stadium at Ole Miss. What is it, 30, 40,000 people, something like that? Apparently, the left had their own rally last night. 100 people showed up. 100. Winning the hearts and minds. That's great, because it's the cool thing to do right now. Now, Erica Kirk is a class act. She's, not even 2 months out of her husband's assassination. She's out there running his organization, speaking to these kids, and she's got people on social media who are constantly getting clicks, clickbaiting, about what they think her husband meant and throwing out conspiracy theories and everything else. I don't know if she was directly addressing this last night, but it sure kind of sounded like she was.
The enemy of truth doesn't need to destroy a nation overnight. He just needs to convince people that truth no longer matters. And the enemy thrives when Christians don't speak up, when citizens don't vote, when students don't think for themselves. But in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, it says, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." That's what it means to live as salt and light.
I think that's what she was talking about there. I don't know, but I think that's what she was talking about there. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but saying, think for yourselves, because the enemy will spew nonsense, and it'll seem very, very, very convincing. We have an idea in Judaism that the Satan, will use things that seem convincing to try to convince you to do bad things. It'll rationalize, give you all kinds of logic, but it's just being used to turn you. She wasn't done there.
Being on campus right now for me is a spiritual reclaiming of territory. And let me explain that, because there is a lot of symbolism in today. It's Wednesday, 7 weeks. And the more that I am coming to grips with the permanency of this nightmare, the more that I'm starting to realize and witness that the enemy, he doesn't want you. He wants your territory. He wants your influence.
Huh. What is she talking about with that? She's a class act. She's not getting specific. She's not elevating anybody by calling them out by name, but saying the enemy wants your territory. The enemy wants your influence. Almost like everybody's trying to claim they're in charge of Turning Point USA. They're in charge of MAGA. And yet she said there's really only one Charlie Kirk, because here's how Charlie Kirk used to interact with kids. And if you want the throne, or you want to be like Charlie Kirk, be like Charlie Kirk.
He would put the microphone down, and he wasn't listening, he was hearing. He was absorbing what the students were saying and what they were asking. He was engaging. He was calm. He wasn't combative. He never insulted. He just wanted you to think. Again, like I said, he never told you what to say. He just wanted to challenge you so that what your convictions were, you actually understood why you had them, rather than they being talking points because your professor told you so or your friend told you so. He wanted the best of you because he demanded the best of himself.
That's an important point. That's a very important point. You know how many times I've spoken at these places and kids come up with the cell phones pre-prepared with whatever they pulled up from their professor or whatever activist group, just reading off the phones rather than it's a question they actually came up with? Now, listen to this insanity where you literally have Tucker Carlson cussing out kids on campus, cussing them out on campus, and calling them names. Is that what Charlie Kirk used to do? Charlie Kirk would, whenever your Charlie Kirk got the, oh man, it was always because he disproved them with their own arguments. That's what it was. Tucker Carlson's literally going out on these campuses, claiming it's in Charlie's name and cussing these people out. I don't want to put words in Erica Kirk's mouth, but she's describing what Charlie Kirk was to show what he was not. And there's a lot of people out there who are claiming they know. I don't trust anybody who's outside of Turning Point USA who's not Erica Kirk saying that, really. Because there's so many. This guy was one of the most documented people in modern history. You want to know what he said on something? Look it up on Twitter. It'll be there. It'll all be there. Now, the other star of the evening was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was excellent last night, and it put some people into a tizzy in my world. We'll tell you why in a second. But this is what he was talking about last night.
I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States. Now,
that's a great point. That's exactly what his job is. That's exactly what it is. Now, he also called out the woke right for, remember when the U.S. was getting ready to bomb Iran, and you had Tucker, and you had Candace, and you had that whole crew saying he's going to drag us into World War III just for Israel, just for the Jews. J.D. Vance specifically called that out last night, and it was amazing.
There were people, and I remember this criticism of the President of the United States. I just raised it in the context of a conversation I had with Charlie. I remember when people said that the President of the United States was going to get us into a multi-100,000 troop regime change war for Israel. This was 4 months ago. This was 6 months ago. Now, the people who accuse the President of the United States of wanting to get us into a regime change war for Israel, I wonder if they stepped back and said, you know what, we were wrong about that. Because the President of the United States did not want to get us into a regime change war for any other country. He wanted to knock out a nuclear facility and get everybody back home, and that's exactly what he did. So I understand there's some frustrations out there, but I think the President of the United States, more than any president of my lifetime, is willing to stand up to anybody if he thinks it puts the interests of the American people first. Thank you.
That's a perfect answer. That's a perfect response. This was during the Q&A period. He pulled that right out of a hat. You know what else? People were asking him about Tom Massey. Tom Massey, who we all thought was just like a Rand Paul type who's just an oppositional. No, the guy's a raving lunatic. Here's what J.D. Vance said, calling him out.
Independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue, you're eventually going to make too many enemies. And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue. It's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massey. It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that weren't the case. I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics, and when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you.
Rand Paul and Ron Paul did not always vote against the party. You know what they vote against? Out-of-control spending. You know how many other things these guys vote on every single day when there's not a government shutdown? Do you know how many things these guys vote on? But that's the thing with Tom Massey. I can't tell the difference between him and a Democrat. Democrats never vote for anything the Republicans vote for. Is he just a contrarian? Now, the problem with this next quote is some people went ballistic over this one. went absolutely ballistic over this one, and I think I realized what the problem is. People didn't actually watch the clip. People just read what people wrote about the clip. And I'm seeing all these anti-Semites and all these anti-Israel people sharing it like, oh, J.D. Vance is on our side. Give a listen to it. Listen to the actual quote.
Where Charlie Kirk called me, and guys, he was mad. It was one, I wouldn't say the last conversation that I had with him, but it was in the last few months of his life. And he called me and he said, JD, I'm really worried. I'm really worried that what's going on in the Middle East right now is going to lead the United States into a protracted military conflict. I've never told anybody that Charlie was really worried about that in the final months of his life. Now, here's the thing. Charlie was so effective, and he was so trusted by both me and the President of the United States that when Charlie made that phone call, I didn't say, screw you, you don't know what you're talking about. I listened to him. And I really believe that one of the reasons why the President of the United States knocked out the Iranian nuclear facilities, but never got the United States into a protracted military conflict and never lost a single American in a Middle Eastern conflict is because we had the wisdom and the good sense to recognize that the American people are done with American troops dying in unnecessary foreign conflicts.
What's wrong with that? Really, what's wrong with that? Mike, we talked about this tons. Did I ever say I wanted American boots on the ground for anything going on in Israel? Never. In fact, I fought against it. People are sharing this clip like somehow it's anti-Israel, somehow it's anti-Semitic. I don't know why, except that the anti-Semites put words in his mouth in their posts on social media and said, see, Charlie was against Israel. No, he was worried the road we were going down. You know who did put boots on the ground in Israel? Joe Biden. You know who got Americans killed in Israel? Joe Biden with his stupid peer to bring in the aid. That's who got people killed there. The president said, no, if we take out Iran, we take out the head of the snake, we're done. People are putting words in his mouth. And I got to tell you, after last night, I'm more pro J.D. Vance than I was before. You want to argue with me? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, no matter who wins the Seattle mayoral election, Seattle's going to lose. We'll tell you about their latest debate disaster when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, there's about to be way more automatic drivers around here. I meant way more. Got it? Okay, not worth the rim shot. I know, that was lame. No, I don't want to beg for one. Yes, but apparently these automatic driving cars are coming to Seattle, the taxi cabs, and I'm not surprised. I've seen these things in testing for a while now. When I was down in Phoenix, Arizona last year for Turning Point USA, they were everywhere. And I said it's only a matter of time until they come to Seattle. Now, when the Seattle City Council jacked up the prices on Uber by taxing them, it was only a matter of time till Waymo came here. Why? Because they said, we could do it without drivers. We can save a lot of money. And if so, we can make a profit because people will want the cheaper ride than the Ubers. There's a lot of people who were interviewed by multiple media outlets yesterday. I saw it on literally every single TV outlet, a story about the Waymo cars, where you have these people protesting. And by the way, there's like 6 people protesting, and the same 6 people were interviewed by every single outlet, who are mad about the driverless cars. I wonder who you guys voted for. I really want to know who you guys voted for, because if you voted for this Seattle City Council, if you voted for this mayor that imposed all these taxes on Uber and other rideshare companies, you guys are the reasons it got so expensive that Waymo said, let's go there. You know the Waymo cars are Jaguars? Those are not cheap cars. They are Jaguars. Then you put on all the computer stuff, but still cheaper than paying a driver to drive you around. Still cheaper than doing that. You know how I know this firsthand? I told you a story the other night of the disaster when I got caught in the Alaska Airlines disaster on Thursday night. And I had to take an Uber home from the airport to get my car to drive down to Portland to catch my flight to New York. Well, here's what happened with the Uber. Would you like to know exactly how much it cost? Because I pulled up the bill right here to tell you. $115.99 before tip. You've got the Washington Driver Resource Center Fund fee, Washington Driver Benefits fee, King County Accessibility and Admin fee, SeaTac Airport Pickup fee. All these taxes they put on top of you. Do you know if I want to take an Uber from my house to the studio? I live 20 minutes away from the studio with no traffic, okay? 20 minutes away, it is $65 if I want to take an Uber over here. Too expensive. It's just like what's happening at your grocery store. What's happening at your grocery store is they raise the minimum wage so much, they go, where are the robots at? What, maybe there's one checkout counter open when you go to the grocery store these days? Maybe 2 if there's a lot of people around. But that's it. Because they realize it's much cheaper to pay the robots, who don't complain, than pay people. So, who's going to come next and make our lives more expensive? Well, probably somebody like Katie Wilson. Put it this way. Bruce Harrell is running scared. Absolutely running scared. Somebody said, Ari, why don't you have him on the show? He had his chance. I don't care to have him on the show. I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm an egomaniac. Exactly 4 years ago, I saw Bruce Harrell at a Starbucks. We both go to the same Starbucks. I saw him at the Starbucks, and I saw him. He saw me. And I said, Mr. Mayor, would love to talk to you for, not Mr. Mayor. I said, Mr. Harrell, would love to talk to you for a minute. And he said, come with me. And we went outside we went outside the Starbucks. And he didn't like something I had said about him. And I said, I'll tell you what, come on the show. And I'm more than happy to have the conversation with you. And he said, well, if I go on the show now, people are going to paint me a certain way, but I'll come on the show after I get elected because we're going to win this thing. Mike, how many times have I reached out to Bruce Harrell? How many times have I reached out to? I stopped trying like a year and a half ago. I just stopped asking. He knows where I am. If he wants to come on the show, he can come on the show. But what's he going to do? It's just going to be me ripping him. There's nothing he can actually defend in his record. Why would I want to have him on the show when he lied about that? He lied about that, so he had his chance. He blew it. The crazy thing to me is Katie Wilson's no better. In fact, she's infinitely worse. I still haven't filled out my ballots. I still haven't decided if I'm going to fill in the circle for my dead grandfather or write in something else or him because Katie Wilson's so bad. This is a woman I have line after line after line after article after article after article, which she wrote about defunding the police. Then she said this in a debate yesterday.
Have you ever supported defunding the police, Mayor Harrell?
No.
Candidate Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, so she says it. Why would you vote for her? Why would you want that? Why would you? This is the person who we have running for office. It gets worse from there.
Should homeless people be allowed to stay in tents in parks? Major Harold.
No.
Candidate Wilson.
This is hard for a yes or no question. I'm going to pass on this one. I can't really answer yes or no.
On definite.
You're going to pass on the biggest issue facing Seattle, which are the people living outside on the street. You're not going to answer if they should be allowed to camp in tents because you know the answer is yes. You know the answer is yes. That's what she says. And nobody will like that, except for the Antifa types. So she passed on it. I wish more people were watching the Spanish Channel's interview because then they might have heard that crazy thing. The fact that she won't even admit it is insane. And these are the two choices we have running for mayor. No matter who wins this election, Seattle loses. And speaking of losing, by the way, Democrats are losing the shutdown battle. Now they're just trying to get in their last licks. We're going to prove to you that they are done and they are giving up. It's only a matter of time till they actually throw in the towel when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Mike, we got a fun text here from John in Lakewood. He says, if I write him in for Seattle mayor, everybody gets free pizza. Now, hang on, John. I need you to clarify this. Are you saying you're going to bring free pizza to everybody here in the studio? Or are you saying, oh, it's like you're promising like Zoran Mamdani, everybody get? I need some clarification. Because if I'm actually going to fill out my ballot for John in Lakewood so my friends get free pizza, I want to know this is a real deal here. I want to know what's going on. Text us, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, if you want to afford that pizza, you got some good news for you. The Fed has made a second interest rate cut. This is good news. That means loans are going to be cheaper. If they keep going down, it means inflation's going down. This is good news. This is very, very good news. Also, President Trump has announced reduced tariffs on China. Apparently, there's going to be a one-year deal for precious metals after President Trump met with President Xi today. This is all good news. It means things are going to be cheaper. It means things are going to be cheaper. It means there's going to be tariffs in place, but they're going to come down from those ridiculously high levels when China wouldn't deal. This is good news. This is all good news. And as the good news keeps coming in, I notice the Democrats are getting so desperate. What was their plan of attack the last 2 days, Mike? I don't know if you noticed this. Their plan of attack the last 2 days, I didn't bother playing their stupid audio clips on this, was Trump should come home and deal with the shutdown. Guys, that's not how it works. He signs the continuing resolution after you guys vote on it, after you guys pass it. And in the meantime, he's doing what he does. You know, the president, I quote the West Wing, he just gets to edit the budget a little bit. That's about all he gets to do. You guys got to work this out in Congress. This is your job. He is literally doing his job, which is more commander-in-chief, foreign affairs, dignitary. That's what he's doing. And he's doing a great job of it. Ending wars, solving trade deals. This is all good stuff. So you guys bashing him, you're making it seem like he's on vacation. And then you get announcement of deal after deal after deal. So that boomerang is coming right back in your face. The Democrats have lost. The polling shows that they've lost. They've lost the media. When you lose Caitlin Collins over on CNN, I'm just waiting for Morning Joe to turn on them, which you got to have already. Caitlin Collins. Definitely not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. This is her talking to Hakeem Jeffries.
Said that Mike Johnson's not willing to sit down and have a conversation. Y'all did have a phone conversation, I believe you said earlier today. Who initiated that call? Was that you or was that Speaker Johnson?
It was a call from Mike Johnson. It was very brief, and it wasn't a substantive discussion in terms of finding a path forward.
But was he calling to talk about the government shutdown?
I mean, you could say that was in the ballpark, but, you know, it was a private conversation that will remain private. However, nothing meaningful came out of it, again, because Donald Trump has not given Mike Johnson permission to enter into a bipartisan negotiation. Caitlin, I mean, House Republicans have been literally on vacation for the last 5 weeks. They've canceled votes 5 consecutive weeks in a row. They are uninterested in doing anything other than jamming their partisan Republican spending bill down the throats of the American people. And as Democrats, we've made clear we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. Period. Full stop.
Wait a minute. So, who called who? Oh, let's see. House Speaker Johnson called you. What were you discussing? I don't want to admit we were discussing the budget or the continuing resolution of the shutdown. So, yeah, we sort of discussed it. Yeah, we did. So, you lied, where you said you didn't discuss it, and he wasn't interested in talking, and he didn't want to talk to you, and he wasn't calling about the shutdown. You mean Republicans are the ones who have proposed multiple bills to continue funding the government? They have proposed multiple bills to continue funding benefits. They have proposed multiple bills to pay the military, to pay air traffic controllers. And you guys have shot down every single one of them. Every single one. J.D. Vance called this out perfectly in front of the White House today.
Body that would reopen the government. What we're also saying is that we're not going to allow anybody, Democrat or Republican, to effectively threaten any policy demand and to place that upon reopening the government. you don't reward hostage taking. If Democrats want to talk about health care policy, let's talk about health care policy. If they want to talk about tax policy, let's talk about tax policy. They don't get to come in here and say, you give us everything we want, or we're going to shut down the government and not pay our pilots and not pay our air traffic controllers. It's ridiculous, disgraceful, irresponsible behavior. There have got to be 5 more moderate Democrats in this entire city who are willing to work with us to reopen the government.
Exactly. You even have Democrats like John Fetterman calling out their own side, saying enough is enough, guys. The Democrats have lost this. They're just trying to get in their last licks right now. You want my prediction? The government's going to reopen on Wednesday. I'll tell you why Wednesday. Because the Democrats know they've lost this battle, but they need to save a little face. There will be some socialist victories on Tuesday. There will be. I'm worried about Mamdani in New York. I'm worried about Katie Wilson here. I think this is actually going to happen. I think you're going to see a bunch of socialists, and they're going to say the following, something along the lines of, see, the American people agree with us. The American people are on our side. We're going to win at the ballot box. And we may be in the minority now, but if you elect us in 2026, we'll be able to stop Donald Trump's agenda. Just watch. That's what they're going to do. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Nothing much. You know, you speak of Katie Wilson. If people start voting for Katie Wilson, basically that's what she intends to do. Defund the police and bring in innocent social workers so that they can end up being killed. I mean, we already had one killed already in 2023.
You had one that was killed in 2020, the day they passed the defund the police for social workers. One of them was killed by their own clients. Yeah, we know how well these plans work out. Appreciate the call, Leonard. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, Webster has officially named its word of the year. And I don't know what it means. And I don't know if you know what it means. We're going to discuss it, though, when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, dictionary.com has announced its 2025 Word of the Year. And I don't know what this thing actually means, so I decided to bring in an expert. And that would be our friend Lily James, who's an editor and producer over at our sister station, Northwest News Radio, because she is significantly younger than us. And she can help us understand these words we don't get. Now, Lily, I don't know if it's a bit cringy for you. See, did I use that right? Okay.
Stop it.
Mike's already mad about this. So I know that when my teachers, when people who are older than me, when my parents would use the terminology from my day, that was bad news and you knew it was already over.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if dictionary.com announces a word is the word of a year, it's long over. And if the news, if King 5 is covering this, it's way, way over. Would you
absolutely.
agree? Okay. So this word is probably retired and done.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. The word is 6-7. Lily, what is this all about?
Well, first of all, that's not a word.
Yes.
6-7 is not a word. Just want to put that out there.
Yes.
Also, I don't know what it means. I feel like it's a generation below me that's a big thing for.
Okay.
I've seen the memes. I've heard people say it, and I don't know. I know it originates from like a song.
Yeah.
That's all I know about it.
That's it.
And I know teachers really hate it.
Okay, because it sounds to me, with the way it was described to me by my wife, who was translating from my daughter, for our generation, it's no soap radio fans. It doesn't mean anything, and it's just confusing, and it just ticks off the older types. Is that about right?
Probably.
Probably right. Okay. Now, why I invited Lily in is because I thought Mike may get a kick out of this part of the conversation. Lily was telling me that apparently there are slurs that have been invented for things that have not been invented yet when this conversation about dictionary.com came up. Lily, can you explain these future slurs to us?
So there's a word, and it is clanker, and it is basically to describe in the future when AI inevitably takes over and we have robots walking around. That is a slur to describe those robots.
Okay.
Yes.
So this, I just want to make sure I got this right. We're allowed to say it now because the robots don't exist yet, but in the future, the robots are going to find this offensive?
Maybe. I don't know. You'll have to ask him then.
If this is what triggers the robot rebellion, I'm blaming you, Lily.
It'll all be on me.
Mike looks like he has thoughts on this.
I have no thoughts.
You have no thoughts. Okay.
It's only brain rot.
All right. So brain rot. That should be the word of the, as I think it was Kevin who said that should be the word every single year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So how many slurs are there for things that don't exist yet? Planning ahead for people to be triggered about the terminology that is attributed to them.
I don't know.
Okay, so it's just clanker right now.
That's all I know of.
All right, there's nothing else in that genre.
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay, I don't understand your generation. I don't understand. I
neither.
don't get it at all. Okay, all right. What are the other? I know Riz. My son said Riz. Are there any other terms that I need to be up to date on these days?
My favorite is slay.
Slay.
Yeah.
That's cool, right?
Yep. That means like, that's great. That's cool. Good
slay.
job. Yeah, that's so slay.
We had sick in my day, and I never liked that word. That's sick. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that one at all. I just didn't. Okay, so slay. Anything else I need to know to be? I'm going to come home today and impress my daughter, and she's going to get all mad at me that I said some of her terms, okay?
Slay is always a good go-to. I like saying swag sometimes.
Swag.
That's a fun one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the stuff you give out at conferences and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. But it's in the same vein as the slay
that's
thing.
cool.
All right. See, I'm feeling so much. No, slay. I don't use slay in that thing. I was going to say I feel so cool now that I know these words, and I know at home right now there's a whole bunch of kids that are being driven around by their parents going, "This is the cringiest segment I've ever heard in my life," because Ari's having these things explained to him.
Yeah.
My daughter being among them, who just got in the car just a few minutes ago.
I'm 21, so I'm still in the cool range.
Oh,
so.
I got you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to warn you in advance. There is a day where you are not cool anymore, and then that day hits you like a ton of bricks, and it hit me years ago.
Gotcha.
Okay? Now, we have the problem on the male side of the spectrum where we start losing our hair, and that's a clear indication of it. Some people can pull that off. I cannot. All right, Lily, what stories are you working on for Northwest News Radio right now?
Oh, we've got a lot. A lot about food benefits running out right now. Also, we're having an atmospheric river on Halloween tomorrow, so that's a big one we're working
So is that
on.
going to ruin trick-or-treating? Is that what they're worried about right now?
It'll just be very wet and windy.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. That's Lily James, who's an editor and producer over at our friends Northwest News Radio. Lily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really do appreciate it. I feel so much cooler now that I know all the young people terminology.
Do you feel slay?
I feel super slay. Yes, I'm sure my audience is cringy right now and saying Hoffman has no riz. Wow, look how I did that. Isn't that incredible and wonderful? We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continue, my friends. When we come back, Mike and I got piles and piles and piles of campaign propaganda. We're going to be going through it, maybe shredding some of it. We'll give you all details of that, plus who to vote for, and my recommendations when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, ICE is asked to pause its operations for Halloween, and Washington Democrats reveal their insane spending plan for the next cycle. But before we get to any of that, Mike had this great idea to save up all the propaganda we've been getting, all the mailers we've been getting in the mail. He brought it in during the primary. Well, now we've got all the general election ones. So inspired by Mike's example, I brought in all the ones I have too. Mike's got his, I've got mine. And we're going to go through a few of these. I know some of you are asking for some more voting recommendations on the propositions. We'll get to those. First, we want to make fun of some of these.
When in doubt, vote no.
Exactly. And I vote no on all of them. Reject them or vote no on all of them, that's the easiest thing. We'll tell you why in a minute. But first, let's start with this. There are some of these that are funny, and there are some of these that are offensive. And I'm going to tell you why I'm actually mad about some of these. This one here, it's from the Local 27, which is the Seattle Firefighters Union. I'm actually mad about this one. It's endorsing Bruce Harrell. It says he gets an A+ on building affordable housing, an A+ on clearing homeless encampments, an A+ on supporting Seattle firefighters and public safety, an A+ on creating good jobs and supporting workers, and an A+ on affordable childcare. Thank you, Mike. Because, first of all, half of that stuff has nothing whatsoever to do with fighting fires. But let's start with this. You remember what I said? If Bruce Harrell wanted to impress me when he first came into office, he could fire back all the firefighters who had been terminated for the COVID vax? He didn't do that. In fact, he ramped up the city attorney challenging their lawsuits. He could have gotten rid of all that by just saying, yeah, we'll hire you back, done, and here's back pay, done, 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 and could have solved your staffing crisis too. The staffing crisis we talk about with the Seattle Police Department all the time, but it's just as bad with the Seattle Fire Department, and they're endorsing him? Wait a second, clearing homeless encampments? Mike, how many stories have we done in the last 4 years where the homeless are actually coming after the firefighters, either attacking the rigs, trying to steal the rigs, trying to steal the equipment? Are you kidding me with this? This one I'm actually kind of mad about. This one isn't funny. Here's the other one. This one from Katie Wilson, just so nobody thinks I'm taking a side in this whole mess. This one from Katie Wilson. Mayor Harrell's failed budget puts Seattle on the edge. Okay, all right. So what's your justification for this? Katie Wilson's Jumpstart tax. Wait a minute. Hang on. I don't remember Katie Wilson passing anything because she hasn't been in office before. But even so, you want to take credit for the tax, which was specifically blamed for the fact that we have less money because people moved and businesses moved to get out of Seattle to avoid this tax. So the thing that scuttled Bruce Harrell's budget, as terrible as it was this tax. Tens of millions of dollars less than they thought they were going to have because of this tax. You want to take ownership for that? Okay. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for her. Mike, what do you got in your pile of fun over there?
Well, so I live in SeaTac, so I don't get any of like the Seattle proper related stuff. So I'm in District 5 for King County Council, and I'm in the 33rd Legislative District. And even for being in a relatively small area, SeaTac is a very small city despite having the airport. In fact, the airport proper probably takes up half of the city of SeaTac, but I get stacks and stacks and stacks of propaganda for only really 2 races. I've got like a couple city council candidates that send lots and lots of stuff, but really most of the heat seems to be in the King County Council race and in the legislature. So the first one I want to point out is there's the Legislative District 33 Position 1 race with our friend Kevin Schilling. He is running for that position. He has our endorsement, but I get a lot of mail from his opponent, Edwin Obras. And so I got a particularly deceptive one here that, Ari, I don't know if you could see it, but it's in red, and it says in all caps at top, Republican voter guide. So it's like, oh, hey, this is for me. There are no Republican candidates on your ballot. So here are the facts about the Democrats. Kevin Schilling on the Burien City Council voted to increase his own pay by 25%. As mayor of Burien, his own police officers voted no confidence in him. That comes up in almost all of these mailers.
Time out.
Yes.
Hang on.
Please.
I thought their police department is the King County deputies. Which police officers are voting against him in the Burien Police Department?
Yeah, the thing that doesn't exist.
Right, okay.
So, but Edwin Obrist, on the other hand, strengthened background checks to keep predators from overseeing children, seniors, and the disabled, and voted to limit rent increases. That's not the flex you think it is if you're trying to appeal to Republican voters.
Yeah, that's really, really stupid, that one. Are they trying to just label Kevin Schilling as a Republican or something? Because that makes no sense. You're saying, wait, we don't like the police, but the police don't like this guy.
Yeah.
So ipso facto, I'm confused. That's a bad. That's just a bad mailer.
It's just a bad mailer. But you were wondering about that. I have one. This one has like a cartoon of Kevin Schilling in a driver's seat. It's all in black and white, and it says MAGA man Kevin Schilling, and it don't buy Kevin Schilling smoke screen. Kevin may be running as a Democrat, but the facts suggest otherwise. And there are 4 points I will read. Each is annotated with a Tesla symbol.
A Tesla symbol.
Yeah, because that's a MAGA dog whistle.
That's copyright infringement.
Actually, it is, because I think it is actually the Tesla T.
That's copyright infringement.
But that's MAGA coded.
Yes.
That's MAGA coded imagery. So what does it have on here? Kevin Schilling attended a Trump rally. Kevin Schilling opposed rent caps. Again, not the flex you think it is.
No.
Sued to stop minimum wage.
Yeah.
Is there the rest of that? No, just sued to stop minimum wage.
Yeah.
In all of its forms.
All of it. No minimum wage at all.
And
Yes.
Funded by MAGA. Attribution needed on that, or as the kids might say, with the sleigh and the brain rot. Source ? Yes. When the smoke clears, the choice is clear. Vote no on Kevin Schilling, the MAGA man.
Oh, if he's going to be a MAGA man, I want him in a blue suit with a blue helmet and an arm that fires things.
I got a couple more. You want a couple more from mine, or you want to go back to yours?
No, you're doing great. You
All
keep
right,
going.
very good.
What else you got?
So again, still the same race. Again, I have so much mail for so few races.
I'm with you there, man.
Have you gotten any of these enormous, like, fold-out ones?
Oh,
like
sir.
These dual fold ones?
Everything I got left is dual fold.
Holy smokes, these are so big. And I don't know what their paper budget is. Like, these are, like, so...
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me explain this to you.
Yeah,
Would you
please.
like to know why they send these out?
Yes?
One, they're hoping you see them in the mail. But two, Mike, look at yours, and you look at where it says, like, no candidate authorized this. These are all from PACs and stuff.
Yeah, these are all from PACs.
You see a little symbol like next to the recycle, or a little symbol there anywhere, a little tiny symbol like a copyright-ish symbol.
Yeah.
That is a union bug. I learned this when I was running for office. If you don't hire a union shop for this garbage, you get yelled at. So I went through Vistaprint because it's a fraction of the price of these rip-off places where people just shred their mail, but they're doing it to keep their union buddy print shops in business. That's why you get so many of these. So the people who are all about recycling are sending you all this stuff that they killed trees to get. But I digress.
So this one I think is particularly telling because again these are from PACs and from different unions and all kinds of different sources, not necessarily the candidates themselves. This is in the category of who is this for? I folded this out. I see like a nice lady, and I folded out. There's a nice doctor lady, and it says Edwin Obrist voted to slash abortion access funding by more than half. Edwin Obrist voted for the largest cut in abortion care in Washington state history. How can any Democrat support that ? Plot twist. Let's replace healthcare hypocrite Obrist with a Democrat we can trust. Vote for Mayor Kevin Schilling on November 4th.
So that's on the Kevin Schilling side going out against the other guy.
I guess.
Okay. Who's more Democratic? I don't know. Let's pick one of these guys.
That's nuts.
All right,
I'll have more for you in
Let
a
me give you a break here for a second, all right? I'm going to tell you I got more mayoral ones. I've got one for Katie Wilson, one for Bruce Harrell here, all right? Let's start with the for Katie Wilson one here. And this is by some other PAC, and they've got a union bug. So on this one, under Mayor Harrell's failed housing plan, rents are up and new housing is down. By the way, correct. That is factually correct. All right, let's see what's causing it, though. Here's what they say about Bruce Harrell. Vote for Katie Wilson, a mayor who will finally do what it takes to solve our housing crisis. Wait a minute. The lady who earlier said she wanted people camping in parks in the city. She's going to solve our housing crisis. Okay, as Mike would say, source please, attribution needed. All right, here's what they say about Bruce Harrell. Harrell spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars on affordable housing units that are now more expensive than the market rate. Yes, that's actually correct. Since the start of his term, there's been a 52% decline in new housing permits and a decline in new apartment construction. That's correct as well. Harrell's housing plan is widely opposed by affordable housing experts, environmental advocates, and even the mayor's own planning commission. That one, I need a source on. I don't believe you on that one. Okay, so Katie, what are your solutions? Because this is going to fix everything, right? Katie designed and passed the Jumpstart Seattle tax on massive corporations, and now the single largest source of funding for more housing. So we're back to the tax that got those corporations to leave town, which you didn't pass. You may have written a few articles for The Stranger or something about it, and yeah, you did help write the thing, but you were not in office. And still, you want to take ownership of this thing that's been a colossal disaster that ruined the budget, that chased those companies away that you want to pay for your housing? She will push for more types of housing in every neighborhood, especially near transit centers. Oh, this explains the parks, Mike. This explains them. She wants more types of housing, like more tents all over Seattle. That makes sense. Katie will make much-needed reforms to permitting regulations and invest in critical infrastructure so it's less expensive to build housing. Hang on. If you're investing in housing, you are making housing more expensive. Tell me you don't understand economics without telling me you don't understand economics. You know, you guys had me with half of this. I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's all true about Bruce Harrell. And then you wrote it right off the rails. Okay, what's Bruce Harrell's response? Okay, here's the one that's pro-Bruce Harrell.
I would say rattles paper, but the paper is so stiff and thick, they spent so much money on that, you can't even rattle it properly.
It doesn't even have the right heft to it. Okay.
No, it's got too much heft.
Too much heft.
Hefty.
That's what, right. Here we go. I'm sorry. These things have, like, fried my brain here. All right, it's all the fumes off this paper from this union, whatever they're doing over there. If you're trying to promote Bruce Harrell, don't write a resume that's printed so small I can't. They literally printed his resume on the back here. So let's go through it. Mayor of Seattle, that's not the flex you think it is. Seattle City Council member and council president, not the flex you think it is. Chief Legal Counsel and Executive Human Resources. You were in HR and you think that's going to make us vote for you? Were an HR lawyer? Okay. University of Washington, School of Law, Bachelor's of Arts. Okay. What? None of this helps. And they're trying to say Katie Wilson has no management experience. I mean, neither one of you really do. She does a terrible job. You show up and don't do your job. You don't show up half the time. This is garbage, absolute garbage. And whatever PAC, who is this PAC? Who is backing this man here? Who are you people? Seattle's future. No, I'm sorry. Bruce Harrell for Seattle's future. Wow. All right, who else funded this thing? Washington Association of Realtors, the Affordable Housing Council. Oh, you mean the far left? So this is one far left organization that's backing Bruce Harrell as opposed to Katie Wilson? Ah, great, fantastic. Garbage. Get rid of it. What do you got, Mike?
All right, I got a couple more. We'll do kind of a lightning round here, and I'll combine a couple of them. Let's see. Landlords love Kevin Schilling with both S's with dollar signs. Very, very clever. Let's see. Working families need a raise, but Kevin Schilling says no. MAGA's new favorite Democrat.
Oh,
vote for leaders who honor the people's voice, not fight it in court. So that's enough of that. Again, Kevin Schilling has our endorsement. I mentioned also that I am in District 5 of the King County Council, and there are two candidates, Stephanie Fain, who the Times editorial board recommends, which automatically means I do not, but also she is going against my friend Peter Kwan, who is my representative.
Wait, the Times recommended the person running against Peter Kwan?
Yes.
What's wrong with them?
Well, it's the Times.
Right,
I mean,
of course.
We'll start with that. But so all of the mailers that I've been getting, like Stephanie Fain is outspending Peter Kwan at least 3-1. So I get and they're all pro. They're, like Peter Kwan's stuff is like, I fixed homelessness in SeaTac. That, you don't find homeless camps in SeaTac. I know how to balance a budget. And, let's talk about reasonable solutions. He's a very bipartisan guy. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was waiting for a day like this to come where finally I got like a negative ad that I could read here on the radio. I will show this to you, Ari. It's a visual daily double. It's all in red. It's blood red.
Blood red.
A photo of Peter Kwan, the sweetest man you'll ever meet. Peter Kwan doesn't share our values. Peter Kwan voted against renter protection for working families. Peter Kwan voted to block new homeless shelters and voted for a property sale that displaced immigrant-owned small businesses.
Oh,
Peter Kwan is a devil,
He's
according
like
to
the
Stephanie
nicest
Fain.
guy ever, and he gives out free pizza.
Yeah,
he buys people pizza. But apparently he's the devil because of that?
Yeah, I guess. And also rounding out my lightning round here, because I finally got rid of all. It's so nice to get rid of all this mail. Also, some nice lady is using her high school senior photo as a campaign mailer. So
you sure that's not how old she is now?
I can't tell. I've done no investigation.
She looks younger than Lily, who was just in here a few minutes ago. That person.
I pointed out, it's like it's got like this fashionable leather bomber jacket. Anyway, some person named Caitlin is running for SeaTac City Council. I wish them the best of luck at their and hopefully someone will say yes to them for prom.
So, Mike, I'll tell you,
good luck buying beer.
I haven't even gone through half my pile. Haven't even done it. I'm not gonna do it because it's all stupid. I will, however, spend a minute or two going over the propositions with you because some of you had questions about these. So let's make sure we do these. Proposition number 1 for King County, families, education, preschool, and promise levy. Their own analysis of this tax shows they don't know where it went, it didn't help anything, and this is more good money after bad. In fact, when I did that thing with the stranger about this, where they asked me to come on and debate the other side, they even acknowledged when they endorsed the thing that there's no accountability for where the money went. They acknowledged it in the article. By the way, Mike, this is a first. They didn't trash me. You think that's because they knew I had the goods on them with all the emails that they said I could have recorded and then went back on their word? I think that's a definite yes, right? Okay. Proposition number 2, changes to the business and occupation tax. Reject it. Reject it. Reject everything. It's just going to chase more businesses away. Then, Senate Joint Resolution 8201. Now, this is the one where we're talking about whether or not you should fund the long-term care tax, the bad combination, the Frankenstein between Social Security, Medicaid, retirement funds, all that, which the Democrats came up with, which is already bankrupt. I can't believe a lot of our friends who are Republicans are backing this thing, going, yeah, let's save this program by letting them invest it in stocks. First of all, I find it entertaining that the Democrats want to invest a retirement program in stocks, but they're the same people who said no to George Bush's plan to privatize parts of Social Security into stocks. Number 2, let the thing fold. Let the thing collapse. Why are you saving it? No, reject it, vote no on it. If you have any questions about who else we endorse, if you go to KVI.com, right up top on the menu bar, it says Ari's 2025. General Election Voters Guide. And I will tell you, in my Voters Guide, there's a little bonus. It says Big Mike endorsed next to Peter Kwan, who is Mike's favorite candidate this election season, so definitely vote for Peter Kwan. And you can also know I didn't endorse just to endorse. The people we put on that list, it's a slim list because they're the people we actually like. If in doubt, vote the opposite of who the stranger recommends. If in doubt, go to your county GOP website and see who they endorsed. If you want to know who I actually care about, it's on this list. And everybody else, I am voting for my dead grandfather because I think he would do a better job than most of these Democrats. That's how slim pickings it is.
Also, anything that is like a proposition, almost always vote no, because most everything is a tax on top of a tax that's already there.
Exactly.
So, like, you've already seen increases in your property taxes. Most of these propositions would include an increase to your already increased property taxes. So just, I don't know if that's all in for every county, so don't quote me on that, but please do your due diligence on that.
Yes, exactly right. Always vote no. It's the best way to go. See, that was what the Democrats knew going into the last one. They tried to get you to vote. You had to vote yes to vote no on the vote yes, pay less. That's what it was for the Let's Go
Correct,
Washington
yeah.
things. But Republicans are so used to voting no, they knew that, and they made the language so confusing. Look at me. I can barely just get it out right now. So vote no on the propositions. Okay, guys? If there's something in particular you want to look at, which may be a vote yes, feel free to email us, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com.
And if you have questions about why there are so many races with Democrats running unopposed, maybe reach out to the party chair.
Exactly.
Because, like, the primary is long done and dusted, and now we're in the general, and people are asking me, it's like, hey, how come there's no Republicans running? It's like, well, because we didn't put anybody up.
Exactly.
And we that is a significant problem here in King County and in the state of Washington.
I am holding up my voter's guide. I threw it against the wall when I got it during the Jewish holidays because I couldn't believe how many races were unopposed, even ones I can't vote in. I was mad about it. I'm shredding all this afterwards. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Washington Democrats have unveiled their spending plan. So if you want to stop it, you got to vote for the normal candidates. We'll tell you the insanity they want to spend this stuff on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Do you know that ICE was asked to pause their operations for Halloween so children can go trick or treating? What does that mean exactly? Are you admitting that the children are illegal aliens and their parents are? Because now you've just incentivized ICE to go out there and get them. I'll say this again for the people in the back who may not understand this. By having sanctuary laws and sanctuary cities and sanctuary counties and all that nonsense, what you have done is made it so ICE has to go into the communities and arrest people. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has reportedly requested that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and senior ICE officials suspend immigration enforcement operations in Chicago for Halloween. This is political. This is purely political. You know why? So J.B. Pritzker can stand up and go, and they didn't even stop their operations for Halloween. What J.B. Pritzker wants is he wants a kid in a Spider-Man costume being dragged away by ICE. That's what he wants. He's trying to make it seem like that's what's going to happen. Would you like to know who these people are that ICE is rounding up? We'll say this again. Even though NBC tries to paint them as sympathetic characters, would you like to know who they really are? Because this is insane. NBC Bay Area has been slammed for failing to disclose the criminal history of an illegal immigrant who was arrested by federal agents and was featured in one of its recent reports. Last week, federal officers arrested 42-year-old Gerardo Roas Leyva outside his home in San Jose as he was leaving for work. NBC Bay Area covered the incident, noting that his family and neighbors recorded video of the arrest. Ring doorbell footage showed him sitting in the back in his black truck at around 7:45 when federal agents approached him and ordered him to exit the vehicle. According to the report, his wife, who is a U.S. citizen, tried to intervene and claimed a woman who was not in uniform hit her and her 22-year-old daughter with a baton, though that incident is, of course, not seen in the footage. After the story was published, the Department of Homeland Security public called out NBC Bay Area on X, writing, "Why is NBC Bay Area peddling a hoax for a pedophile?" In its statement, DHS clarified that ICE had arrested Roas Leyva, describing him as a criminal illegal immigrant from Mexico who had a rap sheet that included lewd and lascivious. I'm having trouble here, Mike. Lascivious. Thank you. Okay. See, it's not just Seattle places I mispronounce. It's also big words. Acts with a child, battery of a spouse, domestic battery, and providing compensation for prostitution. Did he get one of those letters from the police on Aurora Avenue? Is that what happened? Did he get a Dear John letter? Thank you. Okay, they say this pedophile illegally re-entered the U.S. after previous removal of felony at an unknown date and time. President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem are removing criminal illegal alien predators from our communities and putting safety of Americans first. NBC's omission of his criminal background comes as many left-wing outlets and leaders have tried to frame ICE arrests as being unwarranted and at random. According to the post-millennial, the Trump administration maintains that its operations focus primarily on illegal immigrants, particularly those with criminal records or prior deportations. How is it every single time? Every single time the left tries to make a victim out of one of these guys, every single time we find out it's always some horrible person. On Monday, DHS announced more than 527,000 illegal immigrants have been removed under the Trump administration. Yes, exactly right. But they're they're arresting them all trick-or-treating. Okay, I'll tell you what. You want to stop that for a minute? You want them to put a pause in their operations? How about you guys stop threatening ICE agents? According to ICE, there has been an 8,000% increase just in fiscal year 2025 of targeting and threats, death threats specifically, targeting ICE officers. 8,000%. You think that's because of the Democrats demonizing them every 5 minutes? Of course that's why. Of course that's why. Death threats, ongoing death threats. Now, meanwhile, what are we doing about this illegal trucker situation? Well, good thing is 146 illegal immigrant truck drivers were arrested in Indiana in an operation called Midway Blitz. Kristi Noem had a press conference around this, announcing it. These are all illegal immigrant semi-truck drivers, like the ones that killed, let's see, by my count, that's 3, that's 6, 8 people that we know of already How many other accidents are out there that we don't know about? But 146 of these illegal alien drivers are now off the roads. I say, if you know the schools that are licensing these guys, you go check out the licenses that these schools issued. There is paperwork for the licenses. Just go track them down that way, see if they're legit or not, give them a new driving test. Sorry if you went to a school that sucks. If you're a legit driver, I think you'll be able to solve this really fast. I bet you the ones that went to Skyline, the school that made all the headlines about licensing hundreds of illegal alien CDLs, I bet you if they have a license from those places, they're probably self-deporting already. When we come back, my friends, Washington Democrat spending is out of control. They're already gearing up to spend more of your tax dollars in the upcoming legislative cycle. Todd Myers from the Washington Policy Center will be joining us. Tell us the most outrageous things they want to spend your money on. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We should play a new game. Ari's always right, because I'm always right. It's not going to be fun for you guys, but it's going to be a lot of fun for me because I like being right. Well, I said that after last year's budget disaster, where all of a sudden it was, oh, we're $2 billion short. No, we're $4 billion short. No, we're $6 billion short. $8 billion, $10 billion, 14, because apparently Democrats only work in even numbers. Now, once again, Bob Ferguson and the Democrats are saying, we're short. We need more money. And you know the only answer, Prince John knows this from the Robin Hood movie with all the little foxes. It's taxes, taxes, taxes. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, VP of Research for the Washington Policy Center, Todd Myers. Thanks for being with us today, buddy.
Yeah, always nice to chat with you.
Always a pleasure to have you. So tell us what's going on, because this thread you got on social media is making me want to throw my computer at a wall.
Well, part of this is worrisome, and part of them is sort of routine. So every year, agencies put in their requests for either the main budget or the supplemental budget, and then those are used by the governor to develop the budget. And so September 15th, all the agencies put in their requests. Well, we are $400 million out of balance in the current budget, and agencies have requested another $1.3 billion on top of that. That is unfunded. So I decided to go through all of those, about 520 requests, and see what's in there. And there's a lot of them that are, of course, frivolous or needless. But what was interesting to me is that there are a number of them that actually I was like, this seems like it should be, sort of paid for out of the basic budget initially. This shouldn't have to, be something that the agencies come back and ask for, it should be, standard good governance expenditures compared to some of the things that we are spending on. So both of those things stood out at me.
Here's the one that jumped out at me. And I know we usually talk about climate and we usually talk about money with you, but this one here jumped out at me first. It was Chris Rakedal has been running around saying, no, the kids are doing just fine. Stop making fun of the children. They're fine. The grades are fine. And in this, they're admitting the grades are not fine. The kids are not all right.
Yes, that's another one of the fun things is what agencies and people in government say to each other when they're talking to each other and when it's not public. So you're right. Chris Rakedal has been, sort of going after us and others for pointing out the fact that test scores are declining and have declined over the last decade. But what his own office sent was, we need $10 million more for math. And in that they say, well, statistically, we're average, but we've been declining for a while. Well, one, we shouldn't be average. We used to be in the top 10 in both math and reading. We are now average or slightly below average in those areas. And so they're trying to fix that. But of course, what do? They ask for more money. Mississippi has now passed us. They went from 49th to top 10, and they didn't do it by spending a heck of a lot of money. They did it by changing their education system in a variety of different ways. That's what we should be doing. But I did appreciate the fact that, at least they admit to each other that we're not doing well, and what we have been saying is true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it ticks me off, but yeah, at least they're actually admitting it. This is the same kind of thing they did with the homeless. You had Seattle and King County in lawsuits against Johnson & Johnson and Purdue Pharma saying, well, over 80% of the people on the streets have an addiction issue, so of course we need to sue you. And then they say, no, it's not an addiction issue, it's a housing issue when it comes to homelessness. So they are brutally honest when they want the money, and they have no reason to think they won't get it because the Washington legislature just forks it over time and time again. Now, here's something else I saw, which is they're asking for more money for the employee compensation fund. So you want them to get paid more. If your argument is inflation, you guys caused the inflation. If your argument is the cost of living is too high, you guys caused it to go too high, and now they're asking for us to pick up the tab for it?
Well, yeah, that was the major driver of the massive budget increase in this current budget, which is about $3 billion worth of pay raises. And now they want another about $50 million to deal with the aftermath of those pay raises, because what they had, there's what's called compression and inversion, which is that the supervisor now makes less than his employees, or the people he supervises, rather. And so now we have to raise his salary.
Isn't that a Seinfeld episode? Doesn't George's secretary make less than him, and then he asks for a raise for her, and then she's making more than him for the New York Yankees?
That's exactly right. So that's what we're seeing. That's adding another $50 million in requests. But again, what's amazing to me is that we spent $3 billion in pay raises, another $50 million in requests. But then there are things like they want the Department of Children, Youth, and Families wants less than $1 million to increase reimbursement rates for psychiatrists and mental health counselors, because they haven't raised their rate since 2017, 8 years. And they say in there, like, their reimbursement rates to hire psychiatrists, and look, the clients they deal with, they need mental health services, are now lower than Medicaid. So we spend $3 billion giving pay raises to state employees, but we haven't raised the reimbursement rates for people whose services are needed and should be a basic part of caring for people who are in DCYS care by $1 million. That is the sort of thing that really frustrates me, is how out of balance our priorities are, right? There are things that government should do, and taking care of children and families in DCYF is one of them. And the fact that they are now to the point where they're begging for $1 million, I just think is so ridiculous given all the other things we spend money on.
Absolutely. And in the last few minutes, we have Todd Myers, VP of Research for the Washington Policy Center. Of course, it wouldn't be a Democrat budget without talking about climate change, even though Bill Gates is now saying, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, even though I scared the you-know-what out of you for a whole bunch of years now. So now they're asking for $15 million to cover increased utility costs because of the tax the legislature imposed on them, which isn't doing anything to change climate change.
Yes, and this is my favorite for a couple of different reasons. One, which is that they, for a long time, the Department of Ecology has actually said, oh, no, this, wouldn't increase costs, or, the governor Inslee said pennies. But this, they're very clearly saying, look, this is increasing costs by a lot, by $15 million, the CO2 tax, and then what's called CETA, which is the renewable energy requirement for electricity. But my favorite part of that is that they were saying we're trying to estimate how much of the increase there is, and it's hard because the Attorney General's office and the Utilities Commission banned Puget Sound Energy from itemizing the cost of the CO2 tax on bills. So, and the reason I like that is, one, that it's very honest, and two, we were the ones who pointed that out when it happened. We were the ones who exposed that. And now that is being used by the community colleges to say, hey, you're forcing PSE not to be transparent about cost is making life hard on us, who gets funded by the state. So it is nice to see our work and our research being used internally by the government.
I'll tell you something. I don't remember if I ever even told you this, which was after you guys exposed that, I filed a public disclosure request to find out who ordered who told who what. And I got back a 100-page PDR, and every single line of it was block redacted. And they cited attorney-client privilege because they didn't want to reveal what happened there.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And the other thing about that being so ridiculous is one of the people who recommend that was supposed to represent the public. There's a person in the Attorney General's office whose job it is to represent the public and ratepayers in utility cases. That's the person who said hide the costs from the public. And at the very least, what they're saying and what they're doing on behalf of the public should be available for the public to read. But as you found out, that's not always the case.
Crazy stuff. Todd Myers, Vice President of Research for the Washington Policy Center. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Nice to chat with you.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app because we're going to be having contests next week involving the app. You want to make sure you have it on your phone right now. Go download it in the App Store. Also, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Remember, while you're there, to rate, subscribe, and share so that way you and your friends never miss a minute of the show. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Mario in Kent. Mario, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, I kind of laughed out really hard when you and Mike were discussing about the homelessness issue and all the money that they're requesting. And I was telling Mike, I laughed because I said, hey, Mike, do you really believe these people are ever going to solve the homelessness crisis? What are their buddies going to do? What are their buddies going to do for a living if they don't have that bread and butter being handed to them on a monthly basis?
Exactly. You know the crazy thing is here, Mario? Imagine if you were a fixer, a troubleshooter, and you were known as the guy who could clean up or fix anything. For those of you who've seen the TV show Parks and Rec, when Rob Lowe and his buddy Ben show up, when the two of them show up, and they're just there to fix things, then you get a reputation as being able to fix things. So these people in Homeless Inc., they're not good at fixing anything. Instead, they're just like, I got this sweet gig. I make six figures. I make more than that. Why would I want to end it? My goal instead is to keep this job for the rest of my life, don't you think?
Yeah, you know, Ari, and the other thing is, the question that I'll beckon you with the hardest is, have you ever seen anything that gets solved by throwing money at it?
No, of course.
Nothing that has ever been thrown. Like education is a perfect example. You know why education has failed? I will tell you, my friend, the basics, right? All you need to do is teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, and all the other subjects fall in place, you know? Back then, when I was a kid and when you were a kid, I don't know, because you were a lot younger than me, if you didn't pass, you will repeat grade, you know?
There's a whole movie called Summer School all about it, man. We know what happens. Nobody wanted to end up in summer school.
Well, you know, in my view, I can tell you this much, and this is for you to laugh at, right? My physics teacher, that one that I told you about in high school, when he gave people the grades, you know, if you deserved an A, he gave you an A. So he tells his student, Fox 3 Baker, you know, Baker is for conduct, 3 is for effort, and F is for failure in academics. And the guy complained to him saying, hey, you could at least have given me a D. And my teacher told him, and I laughed. I had to hold my, if there would have been anything lower, I would have given it to you.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I remember classes like English. I remember classes I didn't do so well in. And one of them was chemistry. I was terrible at chemistry, absolutely terrible at that. And bombing it, the teacher came up to me and he goes, I'm passing you. You don't deserve to pass, but you tried really hard. And I'm like, well, I don't want something I didn't earn. He goes, it's either that or summer school. Right? When have I ever used chemistry in my life? The most chemistry I've ever done is mixing a cocktail when I get home at the end of the day. Mario, appreciate the call, man. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mike over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, referencing the segment we did earlier about all these candidates, specifically the one about the hit job mailers. Quote, some of these people are so desperate to get elected, they're accusing their opponents of everything except farting in the car with the windows rolled up. Funny but sad. He's not wrong, by the way. Yes, exactly right. He also said regarding Bruce Harrell, who talked about he was bragging about this, being a lawyer for the HR branch of a company. He says HR managers are the spawn of Satan, right up there with HOAs. Yes! Yes, Mike Kerb, you're 100% right. I completely agree with you. Meanwhile, switching gears over to the violence around here. All right, tell me what smells about this story, and I don't mean when you fart in the car with the windows rolled up like you just suggested. According to Konomo News, an injured man showed up at Harborview after accidentally shooting himself in the leg near South Seattle Park. Seattle police officers were called to the scene Sunday around 9:13 p.m. for reports of gunshots in the area. They arrived on Waters Avenue South near Lake Ridge Park, searched the area, but found no evidence of a shooting. Shortly after, a man in a private vehicle arrived at Harborview Medical Center in serious condition. He'd been shot in the leg. The man was interviewed by Seattle Police Department Gun Violence Reduction Unit detectives. They learned the man had met with at least one other person to test fire their guns in the woods. Okay, I'm having trouble believing parts of this story During the test firing, the man accidentally shot himself in the leg with one of the guns. The driver who brought him to the hospital wasn't with the victim during the shooting, but police impounded his car to search for evidence. Does this sound like a gun deal gone wrong? Does this sound like a drug deal gone wrong? Does it sound like some homeless people who found some stolen firearms, decide to go fire them in the woods? There's a lot of questions I have about this story, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of information, which is why the Seattle Police Department non-emergency line is asking for your calls with any tips regarding the story. I'm sure if you look on your Ring doorbell notifications, you'll get some tips from the story because people always talk whenever there's gunshots. But randomly firing your thing in a park area? Yeah, me thinks this isn't just some guys out there for target practice or making sure their guns work. You know how hard it is for your gun to go accidentally off, by the way? That's a little difficult. Guns don't fire themselves, just FYI. I think we all know that, right? Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. As we roll along, Zoran Mamdani is apparently very, very worried, I don't know why, given his lead in the polls, as pulling out some weird campaign commercials. We've got that insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless. Streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, UW is in trouble again. And Kamala Harris, who we haven't heard from in a long time, has a new word salad and a special episode of Deep Thoughts with Kamala Harris. But before we get to any of that, I saw this commercial for Zoran Mamdani, and I thought it was a parody. I watched most of it before realizing it's not a parody, it's real. Let me describe what this is. 3 female rabbis, we'll get into that later, and 1 trans rabbi, so a former male who now identifies as female, talking about how much they love Zoran Mamdani in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. Actually, that looks like Wall Street area, Manhattan. Now, what's funny about this, tell me if you can figure out when the trans one makes their appearance in the video, because this person isn't fooling anybody.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi. We're among the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who've been out door knocking and phone banking to elect Zoran Mamdani. We're also rabbis.
We know Zoran will fight to make our city affordable and safe for our families.
Yeah, dude, you're not doing a good job. We all know what's happening here. Normally, in elections, people ask me the same question all the time, and Mike knows exactly what this question is. Ari, why did Jews vote for liberals? Why did Jews vote for socialists? Why did Jews vote for Democrats? Every single time. Except that's not actually true this time around. Do you remember months ago, there was a Quinnipiac poll? Oh, excuse me. There was this random poll, not a Quinnipiac poll. It was a random poll from somebody I never heard of that said over 60% of the Jews in New York were voting for Zoran Mamdani. And I said to myself, there's no way that's true. There's no way. This thing is made up. There's no way they actually surveyed Jews, because Jews are petrified this guy's going to win. And I've never seen efforts to get out the Jewish vote like I have seen now. There are organizations which are very sheltered, cloistered areas that are busing people to vote against Zoran Mamdani in the Jewish community. Well, a new Quinnipiac poll of Jewish voters in New York City is out. Quinnipiac, reliable polling company. 60% are voting for Cuomo. 12% are voting for Sliwa. Now, mind you, I was just in New York last week talking to a bunch of my Trump-loving, MAGA-supporting, MAGA hat-wearing friends, and they're like, we hate Cuomo's guts, but we can't have Mamdani. And I said, why aren't you voting for Sliwa then? And they said, because a vote for Sliwa is a vote for Mamdani. 72% of the Jewish vote in New York, according to Quinnipiac, is going against Mamdani. And before you say, well, Ari, that still means there's 20-some-odd percent. Only 16% for Mamdani. They're the ones who support this insanity, like this commercial here. And yes, there are some of them, but Jews really had a political awakening during the last election when they realized they couldn't vote for Kamala Harris. Do you remember I pulled all those polls together and showed you how the Jewish vote actually went for Donald Trump? And mind you, that got very little traction because the mainstream media didn't want to cover that the Jewish vote went for Donald Trump. They didn't want to talk about that he had these historic gains in the Jewish community. Well, guess what, my friends? Over 72% of the Jews in New York are voting for somebody other than the Democratic candidate because they are petrified of Zoran Mamdani. You just heard that nonsense rabbis video? Okay, that's not a thing. I don't know who any of these people are. You want to know how real Jewish humor is handling this? Eretz Nehaderet. You might remember them. I played them a lot after October 7th. They're Israel's Saturday Night Live. Very funny and way funnier than Saturday Night Live. They released a video yesterday too, which is a guy pretending to be Zoran Mamdani filming a campaign commercial. This is how Jews actually look at Zoran Mamdani.
Hi, I'm Zoran Mamdani, candidate for mayor of New York City. To my Jewish friends and neighbors, shalom. Let me start by wishing you all a happy new year, or as you say in Hebrew, intifada tova.
Cut! It's Shana Tova. You said intifada.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it again.
Action.
Hey, to all my Jewish New Yorkers, tonight we celebrate Rosh Hashanah with a festive family dinner and dance joyfully to the beloved song, Jihada, Nagil Jihada.
Cut. I'm pretty sure it's Hava Nagila.
Oh, of course.
Action.
I want to reassure you, I embrace all cultures. I love bagels, and I also love Hamas.
Hummus.
Hummus.
Action.
Dear Jewish friends, I promise you, I will fight anti-Semitism. I think about the Holocaust every day, that horrible time when Jews were transported by trains to the concentration camps. And it always reminds me of how my aunt stopped taking the train because she was afraid to go with a hijab after 9/11.
What?
Vote for me, and together we'll make New York City better and safer for Jews from Islamophobia. I'm Zoran Mamdani, and I approve this massacre. Message.
Yeah, that's how normal people are looking at Zoran Mamdani. By the way, I don't know if you saw this crazy story. Did you hear that the guy from Ben & Jerry's who quit Ben & Jerry's because... I can't. The guy from Ben & Jerry's who quit Ben & Jerry's because they weren't anti-Israel enough, that guy, he's now trying to make a Palestine ice cream flavor, and he put out recommendations on social media. Now, before we get to how he got ratioed in the comments and how entertaining they are, do you remember this guy, the guy who did an interview with Vox about the situation in Israel years ago before October 7th?
If you disagree with the Israeli government policy, why not just stop sales completely?
Well, I disagree with the U.S. policy. We couldn't stop selling in the U.S. I think it's fine to be involved with a country, to be a citizen of a country, and to protest some of the country's actions. And that's essentially what we're doing in terms of Israel. We hugely support Israel's right to exist, but we are against a particular policy.
You guys are big proponents of voting rights. Why do you still sell ice cream in Georgia? Texas, abortion bans. Why are you still selling there?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know what that would accomplish. We're working on those issues of voting rights and I don't know. I think you ask a really good question, and I think I'd have to sit down and think about it for a bit.
Yeah, the crusty old socialist doesn't even know what he's talking about. So he announces they're doing this pro-Palestinian ice cream flavor. I pulled some of my favorite memes out of the thread to read for you of ice cream flavors for Ben & Jerry's that people posted in response to this. Ben & Jerry's, from the river to the sorbet. Palestine melon hummus swirl. That was a good one. Capos and cream, I like that one. Kefir twist. From the river to the sea salt and caramel. That was a good one. Allahu snack bar. That was a good one too. I like that one. Rocket ripple. Minty fada. That was a good one. Appease mint. That was another good one here. Paraglide pistachio. Hamas terror misu. Rocky roadside bomb. Death by chocolate to infidels. I like that one. Cookies and jihad. These are all very, very good. Very, very clever. But at the end of the day, it's very, very scary what's happening in New York, which is why this is motivating so many people to vote. Now, Mamdani makes a lot of promises, and he's trying to use the left to insert his radical jihadi ideas. Think I'm kidding? The Persian Jewess who does good work over on social media has a comparison. Mamdani versus Khomeini. Different century, same lies. Don't forget, they used the lefties to push their revolution. And once they had power that they took using the lefties and the students, they imposed Sharia law. Khomeini and Mamdani both want free housing. Khomeini and Mamdani both proposed free buses and public transportation. Free utilities. Khomeini proposed Mamdani rent and utility forgiveness. Khomeini and Mamdani both free healthcare. Khomeini and Mamdani jobs for everybody. Khomeini free education. Mamdani free college and student debt cancellation. Khomeini cheap food for everybody. Mamdani government food programs for everybody. Khomeini justice for the oppressed. Mamdani justice for the oppressed. Khomeini blame the imperialists and the capitalists. Mamdani blames the imperialists, the capitalists, the colonizers, the landlords, and the Jews. Khomeini used radical ideology to mobilize the masses. Mamdani uses radical ideology to mobilize the masses. Khomeini demonized Israel and the West. Mamdani demonizes Zionists and Western imperialism. It's the exact same playbook. The exact same playbook. Now, here's something else. If you're trying not to look like a jihadi like Zoran Mamdani's doing right now, probably not a good idea to have an organization that's affiliated with jihadis show up to protest for you. The New York Post, I believe, is the only good one. I shouldn't say only. One of the very, very few good newspapers left still in print form. There are very few others. But the New York Post clearly has a right lean to it, which is one of the reasons I like it. The Council on American Islamic Relations showed up to boycott the New York Post today. This is a bit of a wasted effort, guys. Why are they mad? They are mad about the accurate coverage exposing Zoran Mamdani's ties to Imam Siraj Wahhaj. You mean the unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing? So the guys who are unindicted co-conspirators in the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history, which was financing Hamas, that's CARE, are mad that Zoran Mamdani has family ties and was photographed hugging Imam Siraj Wahhaj, the unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. They're mad they published the story, even though it's true. And that tells you all you need to know about the New York Post. You know why? They're the only outlet that published it. This is a true story, and the media's too scared of being called Islamophobic. Well, when I see a guy putting his arm around a terrorist at a terrorist organization, saying, how dare you publish that picture of the guy putting his arm around the terrorist who refuses to condemn jihad, who refuses to say he denounces calls for intifada, I think you have a serious problem with our media, that none of them are actually calling this out. That's really messed up. Here's something else that only the New York Post is covering. Jano Lieber, you may not know who he is. Jano Lieber is the head of the MTA, Metropolitan Transit Authority, the largest subway system in the U.S., maybe one of the biggest in the world, one of the biggest transit systems for sure in the world. He is saying that Mamdani's free bus plan makes no sense, is more expensive than he claims, and is just going to lead to rolling homeless encampments. We know that all too well living here in the Pacific Northwest when anybody can get on a bus and anybody can get on the light rail. Now, mind you, the MTA already is strapped for cash because it's so badly run. So now you want to make the thing free on top of everything else? How are you going to pay for that? Would you like to know, by the way, in New York, anytime the subway rates go up, everybody freaks out. I cannot believe how much it costs to take the subway these days, where it's not even cheap transit anymore. It's just not. It's so expensive. And it's still subsidized by the city of New York, by the state of New York, by the federal government. So the subsidized price is what you're paying now on the train, and they still can't make ends meet. Still can't do it. So his big plan is to make everything free. Are you crazy? Are you bonkers crazy that this is what you want to do? Are you guys out of your mind? It's absolutely nuts. But now we're gonna go ahead with it, and we're gonna do that whole thing. Are you guys nuts? I really don't understand the thinking here that people are still voting for these guys. Now, mind you, all the anti-Semitism, everything else, you've got a real horseshoe theory thing happening here because Zoran Mamdani's his mother says, oh, he's never really American. His father spews anti-Semitism. Zoran Mamdani, we've got clip after clip after clip of this guy chanting, literally chanting, after October 7th, how excited he was about what's going on, how we have to go after the Jews. Give a listen.
So who is ready to end the exception? I want to hear you say, not on our dime! Not on our dime!
Yeah, this is a guy protesting against Israel and protesting against the non-existent genocide. This is a guy protesting the U.S. involvement. He's protesting Jews. You know, it doesn't sound that different from this guy on the right that's been making a lot of news, Nick Fuentes.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization.
He's talking about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. He doesn't like him because Turning Point USA is very pro-Israel.
I took Turning Point USA and I f***ed it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I f***ed it.
This is the left. This is the craziest. This is the nastiness of these people, and you see the real horseshoe theory in action here. You really see this in action, which is bonkers crazy how similar these two things are. How you have the far left and the far right agreeing on how they hate Jews, how they hate Christians. I mean, you've got Zoran Mamdani wants to bring down America. You had Nick Fuentes saying he wanted to endorse Kamala Harris because he hated Donald Trump, and somehow this guy is considered right-wing? No. It's insane. Absolutely insane that this guy is about to be elected mayor of New York, that he's about to actually be in charge of the largest city in our country. Are you kidding me with this? And yet, you have Democrats lining up to endorse him. I have a little prediction on the shutdown, which I've been talking about all week. I think what's going to happen is the shutdown is going to be over on Wednesday after the election results. Why? The Democrats know they're losing, but they want to save a little face. And what they want to do is they want to be able to say, look at all the Democrat candidates who won. And you know what? Some of these socialists are going to win. I think Mamdani's going to win. It's scary. I think he's going to win. I think Katie Wilson has a good chance of winning. Somebody asked me the other day, who do you think wins, Bruce Harrell or Katie Wilson? I said, flip a coin. It's probably more accurate than any polls that are out there right now. And don't give me voter fraud, okay? They're all lefties voting in this one. I think there's going to be a few other socialist victories, and the Democrats are going to run around going, look, we won! We won! So we'll win at the ballot box, and we don't need to beat the Republicans because you should give us a bigger majority in 2026 so we can stop the Trump agenda. They are continuing the suffering literally because they want to be able to do that for the marketing. For the marketing. They have admitted they don't care they don't care that people are suffering, that they're using them as leverage for the shutdown. And they're happily embracing this guy, Zoran Mamdani, this known anti-Semite, this known jihadi, this communist. They're endorsing him for mayor of New York. Next week is going to be scary. Next week's going to be really, really scary. I'm not saying this is the most important election of our lifetime, but in New York, it might be. In New York, it might actually be that less than 25 years after September 11th, they're about to elect a guy like Zoran Mamdani. I'm concerned. Well, I guess Florida real estate brokers will be making a lot of money because of all the people who are about to leave New York. When we come back, my friends, deep thoughts. Kamala Harris, she does an interview and gives us her latest word salad. But before we get to any of that, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Remember, while you're there, to rate, subscribe, and share so that way you and your friends never miss a minute of the show. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Andrew in Kirkland. Andrew, what's going on, man?
Ari, I want to see if I can bring your blood pressure down just a little bit here.
Yeah, what's up, man?
I don't believe this guy, Donnie, I might not be saying that right. I don't think he's going to win. I think he is the darling candidate of the media. And like the media told us that Hillary was going to win by, huge numbers and Kamala was going to win by huge numbers, the media's doing the thing they always do. Right before the election, they tell you how much closer it's getting, how the challenging candidates are getting ever closer. This way, they don't have egg on their face when the guy they told you would win by a landslide doesn't.
Fascinating. I'll tell you what, Andrew. On Wednesday next week, if Mamdani loses, you get to call the show and say, I told you so, and make fun of me, okay?
I will do that, I promise.
Okay, now flip side of that. If he wins, you get to call back and say, Ari, I understand why you were so concerned. How's that?
Oh, we will both be very concerned, I promise you.
Okay. Appreciate the call, Andrew. Appreciate you having a sense of
You
humor
bet.
about all this. Appreciate your optimism as well. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So, former Vice President Kamala Harris. Yes, haven't heard that in a long time. Kamala Harris. Hang on, we'll do that one more time. Kamala Harris.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Did an interview because she's still trying to sell her book and she's still trying to be relevant. She's probably thinking to herself, my book sold so well because idiots like Ari Hoffman bought my book. Yeah, maybe I can take a run for office. One little teensy tiny problem. She's still Kamala Harris. So she does an interview with Australian Broadcasting Corporation's, what's this gal's name? Sarah Ferguson, and keeps getting called out by the anchor, and she just keeps serving up word salads. It's been a long time since we did one of these, so it's time for another edition of Deep Thoughts with former Vice President Kamala Harris.
Wasn't Joe Biden then, to put it on him, wasn't his refusal to recognize his own frailties the reason that you faced a nearly impossible task?
I ran against Donald Trump for president, and Donald Trump ran on a platform that was, in large part, I believe, misrepresenting his intentions to the American people. I do believe that there are a fair number of people that voted for Donald Trump who believed him when he told them that his first priority on day one is going to be to bring down prices. And he didn't. And you combine that misrepresentation of intention with also what was at play in terms of massive amounts of mis and disinformation.
Now, forgive me.
And a
I want to
truncated calendar in terms of the clock.
I want to interrupt you because that is a world-class pivot, but it is not the question that I asked you, which is about Joe Biden's failure to recognize his own frailties and what that did to you. The question is about Joe Biden. Are you still reluctant to criticize the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went on.
What exactly would you like to ask? Why don't be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognize his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
But he had frailties. We all saw the debate.
I do believe that Joe Biden had the capacity to be president of the United States, and I have never doubted that he had the capacity to be president of the United States. If you want to talk about whether he had the ability to endure what a race for president of the United States would require in that political environment in 2024, as I've said in the book, I had concerns.
I'm just wondering, is there a reason why you won't go to that prolonged frailty question. We saw the debate. We saw the difficulty he had marshalling his thoughts.
I have answered that question. I do not believe
I think it's just hard watching the debate to see how there could not be a problem long term with someone who can't marshal their thoughts. I'm not saying his acuity wasn't present.
I talked about that in the book. And I also mentioned the context in which that debate occurred. And you'll probably remember how I talked about that in terms of what his travel schedule had been, that what he had been enduring in terms of the timing of that debate. I talk about it extensively in the book. I'm not shying away from that. That's why I wrote it in the book, because I do know it's a question people had.
Well, actually, what she does in the book is she burns Jill Biden. She doesn't burn Joe Biden that much. She burns Jill Biden. She burns anybody in the Democrat Party. And there was an interesting little passage here, which I thought you might find entertaining. This is on page 89. So she was talking about her vice president selection, and when she was interviewing Josh Shapiro. She writes, "He peppered me with questions, trying to nail down in detail what role I saw for my VP. At one point, he mused he wouldn't want to be that he would want to be in the room for every decision. I told him bluntly that was an unrealistic expectation. Stop. Didn't she say she was in the room for every decision? Wasn't that her big thing? She says a vice president is not a co-president. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's what you guys told us with Joe Biden. I had a nagging concern that he would be unable to settle for a role as number two, and that it would wear on our partnership. I had to be able to completely trust the person in that role. She said, every day as president, I'll have 99 problems and my VP can't be one. Oh, isn't that clever? Apart from the apprehensions for myself, I was also concerned for him. I thought his frustrations with the job might impact his performance in the role, and why take an effective Democrat governor out of a job he liked and was good at? But could I afford to turn my back on such a talented political athlete in such a critical state? No, you didn't want somebody who's seen as more competent than you. You picked Tim Walz because he's a dum-dum and because he makes you look smarter because neither one of you is that bright. You didn't want what you were to Joe Biden, which was basically trying to run the presidency because Joe Biden was so checked out, because he so wasn't with it. And the fact that you can't admit that still, when even every single Democrat, including Jake Tapper, is talking about how out of it Joe Biden was, how not with it Joe Biden was. That's why you're never going to be in political office again, because nobody can trust a word you're saying. Not at all. And speaking of people whose words we can't trust at all, how many colleges are out there that are saying whatever they need to say not to lose funding? But right now we're finding out more and more of them are still doing DEI and still having anti-Semitism and still persecuting Christians on campus. We'll tell you the latest stories when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. where critical thinking is still on the syllabus. Meanwhile, they invite an English lit professor / Holocaust scholar. Okay, those two don't normally go together. Usually you teach English lit and you don't teach Holocaust stuff, but whatever. Who was denounced by the founders of his own endowed chair for signing a letter that got the October 7th war exactly backwards, meaning he's accusing them of genocide. As a Holocaust scholar, which I question his scholarship if he's accusing what's happening in Gaza of being a genocide, then maybe it shows he doesn't know much about the Holocaust either. The UW Jewish alumni write, maybe if English professors taught Shakespeare, Austen, Faulkner, instead of slander about Israel, employers would value arts and sciences students to ability to write, think, and communicate. Exactly right. So, I mean, this is a guy who was called out by his own chair, his own department, for the fact that he signed a letter claiming that what's going on in Gaza is a genocide as a Holocaust scholar when it's clearly not. That's not the only trouble at University of Washington is in right now. So, a University of Washington student group, which actually University of Washington suspended and said, yeah, you guys aren't affiliated with us. They're still using the name, though. Is holding an off-campus lecture on Sunday to explain why the October 7th massacre was a victory for the pro-Palestinian movement. Dude, when your whole area is destroyed, it ain't no victory. According to the Jerusalem Post, Students United for Palestine Equity and Return, University of Washington, even though they're not there anymore, is hosting a teach-in called The Right to Resist Al-Aqsa Flood and Armed Resistance about the October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel led by Hamas. So you guys are glorifying this? You guys are glorifying the murder of over 1,200 people, the maiming of thousands of others, the rape, the execution, the kidnapping of 250 people? Quote, why do we commemorate the Al-Aqsa flood as a victory for Palestine's struggle and resistance? How can we continue to support the Palestinian struggle and resistance through changing conditions on the ground in Palestine, our area? Join us, learn together, and discuss, which shows you they're trying to undermine the peace process. The peace process calls for Hamas to disarm. These guys are supporting it. They're supporting the Al-Aqsa flood, which was the name of the operation on October 7th, and the resistance, which is the Hamas-type people. This is happening in America, my friends. This is not happening somewhere else. The October 19th Instagram post was made in collaboration with Tariq El Tahir, who's a youth wing, which is the youth wing of Masar Badil Palestinian Alternative Revolutionary Path, which is closely linked to the Samidoun Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network, which was sanctioned last October by the U.S. for acting as a sham charity terrorist organization. By the way, that was by the Biden administration, for the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine. Ah, great, fantastic, another happy, fun group. In a Tariq El Tahir video with Samidoun, they shared on Thursday by Super UW, Charlotte Cates, who's one of their coordinators, acknowledges that Samidoun was part of the same political project that bears the name Masar Badil Group, led by her husband, Khaled Barkat. Super UW works closely with Masir Badil and Tariq El Tahir, including their names in its account bio. It has featured other Samidoun officers, including Samidoun Europe coordinator Masar Badil, executive community member, and PFLP agent Mohammed Khatib on April 25th. They're flat-out terrorists. They're not even denying it. They're sharing all this. May 3rd, GZ Radio article about the April 17th launch of the local Samidoun chapter stated that many of the branch's activists were affiliated with Super UW. Alon Lapid was described in a January 11, 2024 Fight Back News article as Samidoun's Seattle organizer, and in a July 14, 2023 Samidoun statement as a Super UW member. Tariq El Tahir and Super UW promoted and participated in the October 7th walkout organized by the Puget Sound Revolutionary Student Union, a communist group. Posters proclaim Long Live October 7th, a slogan popularized in the Pacific Northwest by Cates and others. You're literally talking about an organization using University of Washington's name where the school suspended the organization, doesn't want anything to do with them anymore. They're using their name to promote this insanity. Really, this is absolutely crazy. You know, you worry about Zoran Mamdani. He supports a lot of these groups, their chapters in New York. Democratic Socialists of America were out there protesting on October 7th at night while the attack was still going on in support of Hamas. This year, like every year, on the anniversary of 9/11, you have the people read the names. The relatives of the victims read the names of people who were killed on 9/11. Zoran Mamdani got directly called out by some of the people at 9/11 this year.
And I'd like to mention my coolest cousin, Steve Belson, a former swimmer, surfer, and lifeguard from Rockaway Beach, Queens, who served the FDNY for 23 years, most of them as a firefighter with Ladder Company 24, Engine 1 on 31st Street near Madison Square Garden. Steve was known as, quote, Mr. Ladder 24, and dedicated his life to rescuing others. Known by his fellow firefighters by the name Bells, Steve was on the 44th floor climbing up when the South Tower collapsed. He was only 51. And I know it's been 24 years since the terrorists linked to the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda destroyed the World Trade Center and killed nearly 2,800 people, shattering lives forever. Since that tragic day, over 5,000 individuals have lost their lives due to 9/11 related illnesses. I know my cousin Steve and many, many others would agree with me when I say, let's continue to press all politicians, including those who went home already, to firmly renounce terror and violence. When political candidates and public officials refuse to condemn global terror and phrases such as globalize the intifada, they are inviting another 9/11, God forbid. And they continue to bring daily fear for all New Yorkers. Enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah, he's 100% right. People are afraid of this guy. I'd be afraid of this guy, too. This is what my New York friends were talking about when I was in town last weekend. Only good news to wrap up the show when we come back. Put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute with that beautiful sunset we're seeing outside our windows right now. That plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you, my friends. So, right here, with the World Series, as long as the Blue Jays lose, I'll be happy. But I don't know how likely that's going to be. So at least we got some good news for our hometown Cal Raleigh. Holy cow, can't speak English at the end of the show today. Named the MLBPA Player of the Year and AL Outstanding Player. Mariners star catcher Cal Raleigh, according to Como News, has been named the Players' Choice Award winner for the Player of the Year and American League Outstanding Player by Major League Baseball Players Association. Quote, since 1992, the Players' Choice Awards have honored outstanding on and off the field performances and are voted on by the players, said the Mariners in a statement. The Big Dumper, is the first Mariner ever to win the overall award and become the fourth Mariner to take home the AL award, joining Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro Suzuki, and two-time winner Alex Rodriguez. Yeah, that's, I wouldn't quote that one there. Raleigh also won the Sporting News Player of the Year award last week, giving him wins on what the Mariners described as two of the most prestigious awards voted on by his peers. Raleigh enjoyed an incredible season, slugging 60 home runs, winning the Home Run Derby in July, and leading the Mariners to their first AL West title since 2001. The Mariners' historic season ended in heartbreak with a 4-3 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays in Game 7 of the ALCS. Yeah, just had to bring that one up, Como News. Meanwhile, with Halloween coming up tomorrow, M&M's is bringing back the Halloween Rescue Squad for its third consecutive year, alleviating some homeowners from the scary prospect of an empty candy bowl on October 31st. According to King 5, Mars, the confectionery company behind the candy treats, is offering free candy refills on Halloween as part of a partnership with GoPuff Delivery. The delivery company operates in hundreds of cities across the U.S., meaning Americans in urban or suburban communities will likely be able to take advantage of the free treats. Starting at 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, October 31st, those who live in GoPuff delivery areas can score a free candy bowl refill while supplies last. Quote, M&M's Halloween Rescue Squad is delivering the Halloween spirit to even more fans who are eager to have fun celebrating with family, friends, and M&M's, said Tim LaBelle, President of Sales and Chief Halloween Officer at Mars Wrigley North America. Nothing is scarier than an empty candy bowl on Halloween night, but M&M's has your back if you run out so you can keep the fun and celebrations going. The company said it would offer more candy than ever before to ensure candy bowls are stocked on Halloween. M&M's is also partnering with Jersey Shore alum Nicole Snooki Polizzi. Holy cow.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
For what they call the biggest Halloween in years. Quote, Halloween is falling on a Friday and for the first time in more than a decade, which means more celebrations, more trick-or-treaters, and more fun, the brand said in a press release. Aside from the M&Ms, Mars produces popular candies such as Skittles, Twix, and Milky Way bars. They launched the Halloween Rescue Squad in 2023. To request a free candy refill, head on over to HalloweenRescueSquad.com and click Learn More. Submit your request for a candy refill while supplies last. The order should arrive straight to your door in under an hour, according to the site. Mike, I think we need a candy rescue here, don't we?
Yeah. Well, that's better than DoorDash. Good news.
Exactly. An hour? An hour they can get the candy out over here? That's good stuff. Meanwhile,
we'd have to tell them where we're at, though.
Oh, that's true. Do we really want to give them the address? I don't know about that. Yeah. Exactly.
How about no?
Exactly. Don't want to do that. Something else here, now that Halloween is almost upon us, time to start thinking about Thanksgiving. And with Thanksgiving less than a month away, a Portland-based ice cream maker, Salt and Straw, is celebrating a few weeks early with a series of flavors inspired by the upcoming holiday. This is according to Fox 13. By the way, this is a terrible idea. Jones Soda years ago did Hanukkah-flavored drinks, and they were atrocious. They were abysmal. They were horrible. In fact, they asked the youth organization I did, they said, we love your website. Can we get some pictures of you guys doing some Jewish ritual stuff for the bottles? And I made a deal with them. I said, we'll do a whole photo shoot for you guys, but I want some stuff for some PR. I got the kids in the sweatshirts with the logo. They photoshopped out the logo, and I got no bottles. Damn you, Jones Soda. Screwed me out of it. Yeah, the Hanukkah Gelt was especially terrible. The flavors were awful. The potato latkes, which are basically hash browns, disgusting. It was all awful. All awful. So beware of these Thanksgiving-flavored ones. Starting Saturday, Salt and Straw will offer its 5-course Thanksgiving series, which reimagines the holiday flavors as a 5-course feast. The Thanksgiving series was created by head ice cream maker and co-founder Tyler Malick. Parker House rolls with salted buttercream. Turkey stuffing and cranberry sauce. I don't want this in an ice cream flavor because I love stuffing, not my ice cream. Maple squash with pomegranate? I don't know. Pumpkin me tiramisu. Okay, that one I could get on board with. And cranberry orange sorbet. That might not be so bad. Some of those other ones sound disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Well, my friends, don't forget to subscribe to the social media channels, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter, and make sure to check out KVI.com where I put up some new articles today that will be breaking on the show tomorrow, including some stuff going on with the Seattle Police Department and some interviews, plus so much more. That's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.